from the Central Bank of Russia indicated that nearly 60% of Russian exports were paid in rubles compared to 14% in 2021. The latest sanction measure included sanctions against Lukoil and Rosneft, the country's largest oil companies, while the EU confirmed it will phase out Russian LNG by 2025. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Russia said it will keep policy restrictive until the end of next year to curb inflationary pressures, also supporting the ruble. Still on currency, let's look at FX update as Polish zloty appreciates by 0.27%. Top currency gainers are Polish zloty at 0.27%, Australian dollar at 0.26%, British pound at 0.19%, Japanese yen gaining 0.15%, and the euro at 0.09%. The biggest losers are, or is, the Indian rupee at negative 0.27%. Meanwhile, the dollar index was little changed this afternoon. Against African currencies and cryptocurrency market, the Euro-USD market. A price for the Euro-USD market stands at 1.16 US dollar for the euro, while a slight gain for the euro is 0.04 percentage gain, and the pound against the US dollar at 1.33 US dollar per pound. The pound gaining 0.14%, the Australian dollar gaining 0.49% against the US dollar, the New Zealand dollar also gaining 0.33% against the US dollar. Meanwhile, the US dollar gaining just slightly, no significant change, at 0.07% against the Japanese yen. The US dollar falling just slightly, negative 0.2% against the Chinese yuan, and also falling negative 0.06% against the Swiss franc. Price level stands at 1,450 naira to 1 US dollar. The dollar gaining 1.945 point today, a 0.13% appreciation, while multiplicity of observation indicate constraints in that regard. A US dollar against the South African rand. A price level indicates 16.9 rand equaling 1 US dollar. The rand being stronger than the US dollar falling by negative 0.4% against the South African rand. Similarly, looking at the Zambian kwacha, the US dollar battling it out against the Zambian kwacha, multiplicity of observation and the constraint that comes with it, 23 kwacha equaling 1 US dollar. The dollar falling just slightly, rather the dollar gaining 0.04% slightly against a 47.5 Egyptian pound equaling 1 US dollar. And now to the cryptocurrency market. Let's talk about a cryptocurrency market, the price of Bitcoin. A Bitcoin price stands at 90,782 US dollar for 1 Bitcoin. A Bitcoin falling by 1,345 points this afternoon, or for the day. Well, a decline for Bitcoin. Other cryptocurrencies also declining. Ether also are falling, but on a weekly basis, when you look at accumulation of activity, Ether has gained 2.72% from a weekly point of view, but today falling by 19.52 points at a price level of 3,114 US dollar. On the other hand, Binance also falling today by 7.7 points, a negative 0.66%. On a weekly basis, Binance has gained 0.69%. Up to 0.3%. Eurozone GDP growth for the third quarter of 2025 was revised slightly higher to 0.3%, up from the preliminary estimates of 0.2% and above the previous quarter's 0.1% expansion. The upgrade was driven by a rebound in fixed investment, which rose 0.9% compared with a 1.7% decline in the second quarter and stronger government spending of 0.7% versus a 0.4% in the previous quarter. Inventory changes contributed to an additional 0.1%. The Food and Agriculture Organization Food Price Index fell 1.2% to 125.1 points in November 2025, marking a third consecutive monthly decline and a new low level since January. Sugar prices tumbled 5.9% to the lowest level since December 2020, amid expectations of ample global sugar supplies in the current season. Sugar production remains strong in Brazil's key southern growing regions, and India's 2025-2026 harvest started well. And dairy prices dropped 3.1% to September 2024 lows, with declines recorded across all major dairy commodities. And prices for vegetable oils went down 2.6% as lower quotation for palm, rapeseed and sunflower and oils are more than offset a slight increase in soy oil. Also, meat decreased 0.8%, continuing to be driven by lower pig and poultry prices. On the other hand, cereal costs went up 1.8%, driven by a 2.5% increase in wheat, boosted by potential Chinese interest. And now to France, as France trade gap smallest in 10 months. France's trade deficit narrowed sharply to 3.9 billion euros in October 2025 from 6.4 billion euros in supply disruption, while a large withdrawal of metal from LME warehouses earlier this week fueled speculation of a supply squeeze. Those moves were triggered by growing fears that the U.S. will announce levies on refined Coca-Cola operation in the Democratic Republic of Congo earlier this week, while Glencore cut its production targets for 2020. Bushel, gaining 0.52 points, a 0.05% appreciation on wheat price at $540 per bushel. Also, falling on this regard a 0.58 points, a negative 0.11%, a lumber price at $536 per 1,000 board feet, upward by 5.5 points, a 1.04% appreciation at the price of palm oil is at 4,152 Malaysian ringgit per ton, gaining 46 points in the afternoon market, a 1.12% appreciation. And now we'll go on a quick break, and when we're back, Africa's economy, not Africa now, world economy continues, but it would be looking at Africa's perspective as South Africa Forex Reserve posts history. Welcome back. It's your world economy. My name is Vladimir Kem, and now to look at Africa's perspective as South Africa Forex Reserve posts historical highs. The gross foreign exchange reserve in South Africa rose to a new historical high of $72.07 billion in November 2025 from $71.55 billion. In the central bank's unsettled or swap transaction fell to $0.552 billion in November from $0.602 billion. $0.602 in the preceding period, not in billions. Yes. The Reserve Bank of India lowered its key repo rate by 25 basis points to 5.25% during its December 2025 meeting, in line with forecasts amid confidence in a softer inflation outlook. The Reserve Bank of India has now cut rates by a total of 125 basis points since the beginning of the year, bringing the repo rate to its lowest level since July 2022. The central bank also announced open market operations worth 1 trillion Indian rupee, an equivalent of $11.14 billion to buy bonds this month, along with an additional $5 billion in forex swaps to inject liquidity into the banking system and speed up the transmission of lower rates.